Basically, when Mike covers the kingdom of God and or eschatology, can he touch on this idea of the earth, kingdoms, and even in Hebrews where it says the heavens being shaking, how that connects to the casting out of demons as well, and ultimately the overthrow of Satan and other principalities, both at the cross and ultimately through the church in the last days?
Yeah, it's sort of, the wording of the question almost seems to answer the question. I mean, the shaking of the foundations, shaking of the heavens, that kind of language is, of course, in the Old Testament, most closely associated with the day of the Lord, but it's also associated with again, consider the phrasing here, with the coming of God, okay, to earth, which in the Old Testament, again, is mostly wrapped up in the day of the Lord. But if you think about the incarnation, the ministry of Jesus, and all that sort of stuff, well, we do have God returning to earth in the person of Christ, even though it's not, day of the Lord setting. We don't have a final judgment, of the nations, for instance. But, we have both of those things going on with this language. And so when you get into the New Testament, you have the first, coming, of course, God returns to earth in the form of Christ. And so you have a theological, a conceptual connection with that. And the whole thing about, it's very, in the unseen realm, I discuss a bit about how the casting out of demons is, sort of cast as the, sort of a stock element or part and parcel of the advance of the kingdom of God, the inauguration, the advance of the kingdom of God, because the earth has to be retaken, has to be taken back. And, specifically, when you talk about taken back, it's not to exclude the need for Israelites to sort of come back into the fold, because it's their Messiah. They need to believe who this person is, that the Messiah is actually there. But it applies chiefly, again, to the nations that were disinherited at Babel. And so, you've got this sense that the land that's not part of Canaan, part of the promise, is under dominion of hostile powers of darkness. And so in the day of the Lord, that's going to be ultimately reversed. But now we have, again, the kickstarting of the kingdom of God. And again, the coming of God to earth is part of this language, this motif in the Old Testament. So you can see where sort of how both sides, the inauguration and the consummation of the kingdom, both sort of hook back into this shaking, language that is for the most part associated with the day of the Lord, but not exclusively. It is associated with judgment of evil. You have Psalm 18, for instance, God being roused to activity against evil. Again, you can see that as part of the ministry of Christ, judging, sin, judging demons. Even something like the money changers and whatnot draws on some of this image. So it's all part and parcel of the same thing. It just happens in stages. But the language itself, to sort of shorten the answer, the language itself is connected with the day of the Lord and the taking back of the nations. And that obviously in the Gospels begins at the first coming, when Jesus is present.